Hi class, today what I'm going to do is go through the grievance process with you so that you understand what you're going to be going through when we do investigatory interviews. The grievance process, it comes from the contract. It's a creature of the contract. There wouldn't be a grievance process if there wasn't a contract between the employer and the union. And so what happens is that the union files a grievance, and they have to state at least one contract section, as I've said in the videos that I've taped before. The employer responds to the union's grievance. Now let me give you an example. Like, let's say that you've disciplined someone, you've terminated them. They get a termination letter from the employer. And then what happens next is that the union grieves that termination. Then what happens is many times, though not always, you have where the mediator comes in. In the state of Michigan, we provide free mediators for just this occasion. And so they can come in and perhaps settle something quickly. I have seen that many times. When I was in charge of mediators for the state of Michigan, I found that many grievance arbitrations could be settled before they went to actual arbitration. But some contracts don't provide for that, so don't be surprised if they don't. Then what happens is that after there's been both this, there's been the grievance filed, there's been perhaps mediation, and then they decide, hey, we can't resolve it, then they go to pre-arb, and they meet at pre-arb with the arbitrator. And the purpose of the pre-arb is to discuss with the arbitrator things like who are going to be the witnesses, when is the hearing going to be held, how long is it going to take, what are the basic issues. So you have to be very well prepared for the pre-arb, and I'll make sure that that happens before you meet with the arbitrators. Then you have the arbitration hearing, and in our class that will happen typically the week after we've had the pre-arbs with the actual arbitrators. The arbitrator hears the case, and most times what the arbitrator does in real life is ask for briefs to be filed and gives folks a certain amount of time to file their briefs. And then the arbitrator also says that he or she will get an award, which is a decision, back within so many days. And that's the arbitration award can also just be called a decision. Now the thing to remember, and it's something that I talked about in class, is arbitration is very favored by the U.S. Supreme Court and by the Michigan Supreme Court. So what you're going to see now in almost every area of business is rather than waiting for litigation, people are using arbitration. And when they use arbitration, it's less expensive and it's faster, and you can get experts in the area. The problem is that sometimes the decisions are not made public, and as a consequence, corporations are they're at an advantage because of the fact that they have the decisions, but those that are perhaps going into arbitration with a certain arbitrator do not have those. So perhaps the best thing that can happen in the United States is that we make arbitrations public so that people can see them. And then finally, if you want to appeal a court's decision, an arbitrator's decision, you can go to court. But I have to advise you that in all the years that I appointed arbitrators and mediators for the state, I think I had one case that was overturned. And we're talking thousands of cases. And what that means is that the courts have decided, hey, you two parties have decided on using arbitration and not the courts, so you're going to be bound by the arbitrator's decision unless they can find some really unusual fraud. And that would be fraud by the arbitrator, typically. It's going to be very, very unusual and very unlikely, like we're talking about 95, 97%, are not going to be overturned. So you're stuck with arbitration. So you have to think to yourself, when you engage in the arbitration process, that this is for real, that we're not going to have a parachute and be able to go to litigation next. Thank you very much.